Alright, Site 27, Mission 2, Episode 2. I'm redoing this recording because I was very rudely called in the middle of it. So, quick recap. At the beginning of this session, I was a little overwhelmed because we had 3 of the players were on voice. One of them was, his character was separate from the party, so I was coordinating him through text. So, I was doing that while coordinating with them. And then one of the players was absent because they had a birthday party to do. So, then that player ended up having more latitude. So they could kind of give input, which resulted in me texting them back and forth. So I was managing 3 separate threads, which was overwhelming. So hopefully that didn't stick with me through too much of the session, too much of the rest of it. But mostly alright. So, other than that, party starts off in the beginning. They had just gotten into town, and at the end of last session, they resolved to check out this some clattering they heard from this one house. The same house that Carson ended up being in, that he's investigating. That's what that next sound is. So they starting this session, they instead decide to check out something else. So that was fun. They do that. They find this other house. There's some chicken defrosting in the sink. That's what the running water that they heard is. There's some construction material, but they don't find a whole lot else. Though the one player does investigate into the house a little more and finds a very ornate ceremonial dagger. Doesn't do a whole lot with it at the moment. But anyway, they mostly just they go through. They find some mutated squirrels that they don't really do a whole lot with. They just kind of ignore. They see some smoke coming out of the general store. So they go over there. There's a dog outside. They make friends with this dog. It's a great dog. Which I'm really setting up this dog to just emotionally hurt the players later on. Really? That's all this dog was supposed to be. But as a result of a little bit of luck on their part, and I guess accidental good positioning, the dog survived. So they come into this general store. They're talking with the old couple that lives there, or that works there, and they live there. But they're getting some information about the town. They come up with a good ruse to get a DNA sample from them to test for that sarkic protein that they found in the raccoons that they fought last session. So they do that, and then the player kind of bombs the investigation roll. So they don't find anything. They got to go back in. Carson uses his ranger magic to talk to the dog and actually get some good info that this old couple is sometimes leaving in the middle of the night. Pertinent information. Whereas this old couple had been, the whole time they were talking to them, they were just stating how dangerous it is in the middle of the night and how they don't leave. Lying. It's also, this old couple is, or at least David, the man who's doing most of the talking. He's choosing his words very carefully. Just a little underlying layer of suspicion. So after the test bombs, they go back in. And the wife, Ethel, she's not there. They explained they needed another sample from both of them. David, the old man, is like, well, all right, my wife's in the back. She'll be right back out. And a brief moment passes before there's 3 loud cracks, wet splashing onto the floor, and a scream. And 3 monsters emerge from the back room. 2 of them are... all 3 are humanoid. But 2 of them are massive piles of muscle, hypertrophied, Mr. Universe times 2 type monstrosities, splitting skin, overly bulbous knuckles and elbows, massive bones and teeth everywhere. Nasty. And then the third one is covered in eyes, ears, and other sensory organs. So, fight breaks out. And David is, he screams briefly, calls for his dog, and then starts to ready something. And the one player, the cleric, catches that that's a fake scream with a really good insight roll. Interesting. So, fight breaks out, and due to some lucky positioning on the player's part, the dog doesn't manage to get inside. Because one of the muscle monsters is blocking the door, so it can't get in. Pretty simple. So as a whole result of this, the dog ends up living, and I guess they have a dog now. They just have a dog that I guess they're going to take back to base if they can keep it alive through the rest of the mission. But, so that's a thing. Maybe I'll give them some way to get it back to base or get it to somewhere safe. Don't know. But, overall, fight breaks out. They kill one or two of the muscle monsters fairly quickly, like within a round or two. I think the one of them has claws, the other one's just like bare-knuckled giant plates over its hands. They kill the claw one really quickly because the ranger does pretty good damage. But so that happens. And again, due to some lucky positioning, the dog doesn't get in. So Fritz decides to do whatever he was going to do to the dog, he does to himself. And that same kind of frenzy type thing, that like poisonous frenzy that the raccoon underwent, starts to happen to him. He's shaking, he's foaming at the mouth. And for him, this is his transformation. The raccoon was already dangerous, but it grants him increased strength and durability. He gets a shit ton of health, hit points out of this. I thought about effectively giving him rage, but if he lived for another round or two, he might have gotten a rage-like effect might have activated, but he didn't have it at first. Instead, he had 3 attacks. 2 unarmed, and then 1 with the this antler dagger dripping venom that he had. So he had that, and fight breaks out. They clear out the one muscle monster. They kill the eye thing, which I describe as after it gets shot in the neck, the blood spills out, and interspersed in the blood are thousands of eyes. There's eyes inside this creature flowing through its body, so that's not good. That's you might want to get that looked at. But so they go a little bit farther in this fight. They get a little fucked up, but after the fight, they check on the dog. They find some more clues, including the fact that they find an old picture of the town and town hall that is that is currently sitting on a hill. In this old picture, there's no hill. What is that about? So, and then session mostly ends. It wasn't a very it wasn't a quick session. It was still a full 4-hour session, but not a huge amount happened in it. But I wanted to let the players kind of go at their own pace. I'm not going to rush them through anything. But one of the key things about this session was I wanted to give them enough clues to start to piece something together. At least they can't figure everything out with what they have, but they can start to form a picture, and they can start to get some ideas. Because anytime a player wants to like figure out a mystery, as soon as they have some clues, they'll start to come up with theories, regardless of whether they're true or not. So things like in the diary that Carson recovered from this house, they noted, or the diary noted, that the Fritzes about a year ago they perked up, like they got more active, they got happier. And that's all this little girl could really notice. But then, a little while after that, people started disappearing, and this little girl's classmates disappeared. Until about 2 months ago, she was the last in her class. Until she disappeared. So, they know the disappearances were gradual. They know the Fritzes haven't disappeared. They got some information from the Fritzes that, according to them, you know, people disappear. You don't notice they're gone until like, oh, you haven't seen them in a few days. That's what you notice. So, according to the Fritzes and according to this little girl, nobody's seen anybody disappear or how it happened. But there was some evidence of like a struggle in that house. So something is abducting them violently. They get some more information from, they did another test with some samples, and they get some more information there. Like, samples from these creatures have multiple DNA samples from different people, including they have DNA from one of the missing Foundation agents. So, they know that those missing agents did make it to town. They find some of the agents' gear behind the counter. More evidence. They find that picture of the town without a hill under the town hall. There's a lot of separate little clues here. But how do they fit together? What's going on? And I think that's a big part of it. You want to give clues, and you want to put them in the right spot. Some of that involves, like, okay, if the players don't look where you put the clue, you can always move it if it's a really important clue. You can move it to a place that, like, makes enough sense. As long as you're not like, oh, it's just on the floor, it's the middle of the room, it's right there. You see it. Like, no, don't do that. It has to come from, like, them searching or doing something. Which I kind of thought they were going to ignore behind the counter, and they just weren't going to find this. But, like, that's a big thing about, like, horror and mystery. You want to you want to be careful with the information you give. You want to give the right kind of clues. Because if you give too much information about, like, around a horror-centric thing, it can kill the horror. You know, any old horror movie, like, look at Aliens. They show you enough of the alien for you to understand how dangerous it is. But you don't really get a whole lot of, like, really good, like, it doesn't just show it. It's just like, hey guys, I'm the villain. It doesn't show up. Like, the more and more you see of these types of monsters, like, especially in slashers, like, the more and more you see of, like, Michael Myers and whatever, kind of the less scary they become, you know? Like, if there's some sort of giant monster that's stalking the main characters, the moment you see all of it, and you kind of, like, understand it, it gets less scary. It loses that edge. And that's a really fine balance to strike. It's really difficult. I guess there's a little bit of luck sometimes. I don't know. It's tricky. But got to see some of the differences between the two more religious characters. Gersh, who's a Jewish medical medic. Yeah, Gersh, who's Jewish, and Carson, who's Catholic. So there's some differences there, and Gersh, in particular, described Carson as as less of a New Testament type, because Carson is all wrath and fury. My God will strike you down with all the fury appropriate. That kind of thing. That was a fun moment. There's always lots of fun moments. Trey's player was really killing it with the jokes this session. God, fucking Trey cool. God damn it. This fucking character, I hate him, but I love him. Yeah, I guess that's mostly it. Maybe sooner or later I'll do a bigger video kind of talking about horror, but maybe I'll hold off until this mission is done to really talk about like how I'm trying to design like this mystery and my thought process for horror. I know I've touched on it before in one or two of these videos. So, but yeah, that's it for now.